It is undeniable that a tectonic shift has taken place in the psyche of the British public. The switch is flipping, and people are beginning to realise that a number of the issues we face share a common cause, or multiple related common causes. But at the core of it all, mass immigration is fundamentally at the forefront of many of the challenges we are facing today. Take housing, for example. This affects every single person in this country, and the current prices of both mortgages and rent are astronomical. Gen Z and those younger are basically locked out of the prospect of ever owning a house. But it's not just that. The average Zoomer looking to move out and actually move forward with their lives are facing economic challenges that are literally unprecedented in modern history. Challenges unique to our generation. It's not like the good old days where granddad with a single salary could cover rent, his mortgage, the energy bills, and feed a family. No. Importing 1 million people a year might be the largest contributing factor to this problem. It comes down to basic supply and demand. People cannot get doctors, dentist appointments, or even a driving test for the exact same reason: the mass importation of foreigners into our country. Native British people are having less and less children, and I'd like to highlight a couple of reasons why. Economics play a huge factor in this. In today's world, the fact is that in a majority of cases, both the man and the woman have to work in order to provide a fairly decent life for their children, and they still struggle to find a house or get a mortgage or to simply make ends meet. How could you possibly consider having a family if you can't even get housing? The second reason is cultural and societal, and is to do with the considerable divide that is occurring between men and women, which is pushed by the media, influencers, bad actors, various organisations with nefarious agendas, feminists. Even politically, the divide between the sexes has never been greater. And of course, we have the demographic question, which is a problem that doesn't require much explaining if you're able to walk outside and have a stroll around your town centre or certain streets where you live. The nation is truly in dire straits, for more reasons than can be included in this video. But let me refer back to the title: Gammonism is inevitable. The term gammon is a racial slur thrown about by leftists and communists, directed at the white working and middle classes of Britain, for basically taking an issue with or questioning things like immigration, and questioning other cultures or religions in regards to their behaviour, beliefs, and their place in this country. A stereotypical gammon is your 35-year-old plus, bald, overweight, red-faced, beer drinking, pork eating, football watching, working class Englishman who is nothing more than an evil, racist, fascist in the eyes of the left. He doesn't mince his words, and he might not have the most diverse vocabulary. Sometimes he uses language that the weak-willed may deem as offensive or even racist, which in today's society is the worst thing you could possibly do. Ironically, however, the term gammon is an ethnic slur in and of itself, but don't worry, because being racist to white people doesn't matter, and the left absolutely love it. If you've ever frequented the murky depths of UK Twitter, then you've probably come across some rabid leftist with a bunch of weird heart emojis accompanied by an array of odd-looking flags in their bio. Of course, it would never be the national flag, of which they truly belong. You see them replying or quoting someone, calling them a gammon for complaining about immigration or the cultural norms of certain people who aren't from Britain, shall we say. But recently, there's been a sort of embracing of the name because, well, firstly, it's funny. Secondly, people don't really care about some slur used by insane traitors anymore. And thirdly, it is a way of referring to the ethnic English people that is memeable, not so serious, and actually quite specific and tangible, when we are constantly surrounded by institutions and media telling us that simply anyone could be English or British, which is clearly a load of, When someone calls you that slur, it refers specifically to white British people. And to the traitors, we are all gammons. It doesn't really matter what class you come from, where in the country you are from, your age, how you speak, or what you look like. If you like your country and don't want infinite immigration into it, then you probably fit the criteria. This is where the now infamous Gammonzilla comes into play. This cartoon featured in a Times article about the protests in Epping regarding an asylum hotel and an individual who has been charged on multiple accounts of sexual assault against a woman and a 14-year-old girl. This image is essentially what they think of you. But like a lot of leftist art and memes, it has backfired on them once again, as the people it was intended to demonise have embraced it. So it has now become a meme and a genuine reference to the overwhelming amount of discontent and building resentment the English working classes are feeling because of mass legal and illegal immigration, its consequences regarding overall public safety, and rapidly changing demographics. Gammonzilla is a metaphor for the collective rise in anger about what is happening to our country, our communities, and the replacement of our ethnic group in our own land. The left and the political establishment are terrified that all these evil, racist gammons up and down the nation might actually mobilise and assert their political will on the streets and in the ballot box. The cartoon itself might depict the more stereotypical depiction of gammon I've described earlier, but as I said, make no mistake that this is what they think of you, regardless of whether you fit the physical criteria of the big, fat, bald, evil, fascist, red-faced Englishman with a sun-crossed necklace, which is personally my favourite detail of the cartoon. So what does this mean? The mainstream media class and political establishment are acknowledging the fact that there is a very large amount of people in this country who do not subscribe to their woke, Marxist idea of morality and their overall worldview, or their soft communist utopian idea of what Britain is and what it will be now and into the future. At every single opportunity since Tony Blair, the British people have voted for less immigration at the ballot box, whether it was voting for Cameron, Brexit, or Boris Johnson in 2019. Lower immigration was at the forefront of it all. It was always big promises, and then after the election, it was preceded by unprecedented levels of mass immigration, a genuine betrayal. The people have been ignored, demonised, pushed down, attacked by militant Antifa communists, and even locked up for protesting or merely saying something on social media about it. Things which all continue to this day. Everyone is really at their wits' end. It's partly why Nigel Farage will probably be the next Prime Minister. People genuinely want radical change. This is why Gammonism is inevitable. It is rising. It doesn't care if some rabid leftists think it's racist or fascist or Nazi. The people of this country who have been ignored for decades are finding their voice, they're finding their political will and their courage to stand up for what is right. England belongs to the Gammons. Our enemies absolutely loathe this fact. It doesn't belong to the infinite amount of Bomalians or whatever the government wants to ship in every year, quite literally at our expense, which is preventing us from getting a house or even being able to live in a functional country. We want to live in a safe, high-trust, homogenous, efficient nation that has been robbed from us by a bunch of anti-English, anti-white, treasonous enemies. They literally hate us, and they wish for our demise. We've had enough of liberalism. We're done with all the anti-white racism, the classism, the communism. It is time for Gammonism. So, what is Gammonism? It's clearly a term I just made up, to be fair. But to be serious for a moment, fundamentally it is a rejection of certain things and an embracing of others. It rejects the liberal globalist world order of open borders, international finance, Zionist-influenced governments, communism, cultural Marxism, and the forced ethnic replacement of our people. It instead opts for a belief in nation, borders, ethnic identity and pride, law, order, resilience, and traditional values rooted in our ancestry and history. It's about embracing what we are, warts and all, regardless of what some snotty, self-hating communists who loathe everything natural about the world have to think about it. These people are dead ends, and they are going to lose. Now look, Communism obviously isn't a thing. I literally just made it up. It isn't actually real. Or is it? Ironically though, gammon as a slur was intended to be a derogatory insult to shut us down, but we have alchemically converted it into a strength, the inevitable gammonzilla, an overwhelming force that will smash through the ideological and psychological chains that have been forced on it for the last 70 years. Like Godzilla ravages through a city decimating everything in its path. That is our destiny. Reject communism and embrace gammonism. Embrace Gammonzilla. I think that concludes it for this initial video. If you enjoyed it, then please do share with anyone it might also resonate with. Thank you for watching and have a good one.